His son Nephi prayed to know its meaning. In answer, he was given the remarkable vision. He beheld a virgin bearing a child in her arms. He envisioned the Redeemer of the world, his earthly ministry, and his crucifixion. He saw 12 others who would follow the Holy One, and he foresaw the ongoing opposition to the work of God and of his apostles. The Book of Mormon contains the fullness of his everlasting gospel. How did he define the gospel? The resurrected Lord taught, "This is the gospel which I have given unto you, that I came into the world to do the will of my Father, because my Father sent me." Then he amplified that one-sentence definition. "My Father sent me that I might be lifted up upon the cross, and after that I had been lifted up upon the cross, that I might draw all men unto me." King James Version of the Bible, for example, was produced by 50 English scholars who accomplished their work in 7 years, translating at the rate of 1 page per day. Expert translators today do well if they can also translate Scripture at the rate of 1 page per day. In contrast, Joseph Smith translated the Book of Mormon at the rate of about 10 pages per day, completing the task in about 85 days. Quite miraculous, really, through the gift and power of God. We have a lot of suggestions about how it was done. We know that they had a table like this. We know they had the golden plates covered usually, and Joseph used these the Urim and Thummim seer stones in the hat, and it was easier for him to see the light when he'd take that position. I testify that Joseph Smith was and is the prophet of this last dispensation. It was he who, through the gift and power of God, translated this holy book. This is the book that will help to prepare the world for the second coming of the Lord. I testify that Jesus Christ is the literal and living Son of our living God. He is our Savior, our Redeemer, our great exemplar, and our advocate with the Father. He was the promised Messiah, the mortal Messiah, and will be the millennial Messiah. This is the book that will help to prepare the world for the second coming of the Lord. Scriptural witnesses authenticate each other. This concept was explained long ago when a prophet wrote that the Book of Mormon was written for the intent that ye may believe the Bible. And if ye believe the Bible, you will believe the Book of Mormon also. Each book refers to the other. Each book stands as evidence that God lives and speaks to his children by revelation to his prophets. A prophecy in the Book of Mormon warned that some people would object to the notion of additional scriptures. To those who think they need no more Bible, The Book of Mormon restores and underscores biblical doctrines such as tithing, The scriptural story of Jesus Christ is indeed a two-hemisphere story. While Mary and Joseph in the East were making preparation for the Holy Child's birth in Bethlehem, but Isaiah was not the only Old Testament prophet who foretold the Book of Mormon. Ezekiel wrote, "Take thee one stick and write upon it for Judah and for the children of Israel. Then take another stick and write upon it for Joseph, the stick of Ephraim, and for all the house of Israel. And join them one to another into one stick, and they shall become one in thine hand." Today, saints living in many nations of the earth gratefully hold the Bible, the stick of Judah, and the Book of Mormon, the stick of Ephraim, bound as one in their hands.
Travis Wayne Goodsell. Wasn't going to do a video after the little quick one I did with no narration. You have to read. And then as the morning went on, I got the idea to do this video, and then began to do the research on this video, and then went, oh, we need to do it right away. From Sun Tzu, The Art of War. If you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the results of 100 battles. If you know yourself but not the enemy, for every victory gained, you will also suffer a defeat. If you know neither the enemy nor yourself, you will succumb in every battle. So say we all. This is the risk I'm taking by having the internet on church sites. Otherwise, I was being left alone. So, section 101, verse 53, whoops, 51. And the enemy came by night and broke down the hedge. And the servants of the nobleman arose and were affrighted and fled. And the enemy destroyed their works, broke down the olive trees. Kind of important to know who that enemy will be, if that's a Joseph Smith prophecy in parable form. Joseph Smith III was born November 6th, 1832. And so he was 11 years old when his dad died, murdered by the enemy. But he didn't start his church, the reorganized Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, until June 6th, 1860. And so, 28 years of age? Is my math correct? 27? Because it's not quite November for his birthday yet. And so he's called, as the Wikipedia page tells us, the prophet president of the reorganized Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. They don't even put the full name of the church under his picture. They just say of the church. And so he is said to be the successor of Joseph Smith Jr., his father, which is called a predecessor here. And so the reason is for doctrine of lineal succession. So why isn't he called the second president of the reorganized Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints? Shouldn't he be the second if he's the lineal succession from his father? I have been telling you for years, these whole latter days, that when you're doing research on anything, but specifically talking to you about church history, because this is the topic of my YouTube channel, I don't talk about Trump. That was for my website that I had until the church shut it down. I don't even talk about Paleo-Hebrew, philosophy of Mormonism, Egyptian, none of that stuff that I used to do on YouTube in the beginning before 2017. Something happened at the end of 2016 that changed the theme of my channel with over 8.2K videos. And so I've been trying to help you out so that you can learn how to learn, not get fooled by liars and deceivers concerning the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and the origins all the way back to Joseph Smith with the Book of Mormon. Is that you have a separate file. I don't care how you do it, if it's on paper, if it's on a Word program, or whatever. I don't recommend a cell phone, especially not cloud, but you do you. Names, places, events, dates, all separated, but such that you can recognize patterns. so that when you see an anomaly, then you develop a theory test using logical Socratic methodology and have it tested. If you don't have a test, you don't have a theory. Theory is only as good as the test. And you need 3 different tests, not running the same one 3 times, 3 different tests for confirmation to establish a fact. And then if you can repeat it by numerous other sources, anything you find confirms yet again, you've now established eternal law. And so history has happened. It's factual. It's even eternal now because it happened. But because of time and people not giving a full accounting of it, such as needing to do archaeological digs for a site that has been buried in time under the ground, it is important to use this scientific process to learn the truth. And so I could do this on Joseph Smith III for you, but I've chosen somebody else. You should already know why from my intro that was rudely interrupted by terrorists, an enemy. Brigham Young. I wanted to find out when his wife died. And so I went to the list of wives first. And she's Miriam Angeline Works, and was married to Brigham Young October 8th, 1824. And it says here that she died in September 1832 from consumption. And so because you're doing research, you need to know what consumption is. You can't skip over it and think you know, and then when you're asked or you're bringing it up, you don't know. You need to know that it has something to do with a pulmonary disease of the lungs. It's called a wasting disease. And one of the major ones is pulmonary tuberculosis. So it goes after your lungs. And so they're saying that she died a few months after she and Young were baptized. So that leads us to believe that they were baptized together at the same time. And so you look for the Wikipedia primary source document reference, and instead we have Turner in his published book, 2012. Published authors are not primary source documents. They, as a researcher and a published researcher, need to put primary source documents in their book, such that Wikipedia, therefore, should have the primary source that the author is supposed to be referencing, not the author. Because all you're doing now is promoting that author's book to have it purchased so that you can find the primary source. Sick and wrong. And then the other one is another published author from back in 1987, Well, out of the mouth of 2 or 3 authors shall every truth be falsified. I just made this stuff up off the top of my head. I've already forgotten it. So, let's go down to Brigham Young's Latter-day Saint conversion. But I guess we probably should start with Brigham Young. Notice that for Brigham Young, they went out of their way to put below the picture Young, circa 1870 for the picture, second president of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. They forgot to capitalize the. But they don't give a reason for becoming the president. They do it for the others. Why is he no longer the president of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles? Why is he no longer a member of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles? Well, the reason they put is became president of the church. But not for becoming president like Joseph Smith III. And there's a big difference here. And so, if Joseph Smith III is the successor of his father, but it's the reorganized Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and therefore he's the second president, why is Brigham Young the second president of a different named church, claiming that Joseph Smith is the successor? And it's interesting, they only put Joseph Smith rather than Joseph Smith Jr., whereas they put Joseph Smith Jr. for Joseph Smith III. Is there another Joseph Smith? Is this a different church? Is that where the confusion is? Is that Brigham Young's the second president of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints by this other guy who's named Joseph Smith, and Joseph Smith III is actually by Joseph Smith Jr., whom we all know from the Book of Mormon and the Doctrine and Covenants and the history of Pearl Great Price. What's going on? You see how I did that? I looked for the patterns, saw the anomalies. Comedy ensues. I have had a deep impact on Mormons freaking out and rewriting history. It used to say the first president of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, as it should be. Nevertheless, but you'll notice that they put December 27th, 1847, of when he became the president of the church. That is incorrect. Because if you were to use the facts, the United States of America in 1887 with the Edmunds-Tucker Act dissolved the incorporated Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints that was incorporated in 1852. Oops. That's what you do when you do research. You don't trust people, you establish facts from the evidence. The United States Congress, signed by the President, is the fact of the church being incorporated in 1852. It was not December 27th, 1847. But yes, it was incorporated as the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And that was dissolved, and it has never been restored. Never been restored. I need to repeat that a billion times and go slowly until you figure it out. And so we have a lie being perpetuated by Mormons who refuse to do their research or refuse to put the truth in, who think they know the truth. And we need to have this family portrait, criminal lineup. Ma'am, are one of these men the offenders? Yes, all of them. Every single one. And so, leading up to this question that I wanted resolved, I had to read from the beginning and go down to try to find it. And so we get to his early life, is it? Yeah, early life. And I think we can start here at young married Miriam Angeline Works. They do not have her blue lit to correspond with the list of Brigham Young's wives, which I thought was strange until I saw Latter-day Saint conversion. Whom he met in Port Byron. So you need to find that location, put it in there with the information. Port Byron, young married Miriam Angeline Works, October 1824. In dates, October 1824, young married Abeline Works in Port Byron, whom he met in Port Byron. Doesn't say they got married there. Nonetheless. And then so the names, Brigham Young, married Miriam Angeline Works, Port Byron, October 1824, and the one for Miriam Angeline Works, married Brigham Young, in Port Byron, October 1824. It's a lot of work, but you need to do it right, because we've already caught some lies already. And so talking about the start of their her family. And then we have in the middle, young converted to the Reformed Methodist Church in 1824. So again, Brigham Young converted to the Reformed Methodist Church, 1824. 1824, Brigham Young converted to the Reformed Methodist Church. Reformed Methodist Church, Brigham Young converted 1824. And so you got to do your research on the Reformed Methodist Church. And this is by that Reformed Methodist Church talking about it, because it's still in existence. They would kind of know the origins of their religion. So let's see what they say. The Methodist Reformed Church was a Christian denomination. Hold that tab for when we go back to Brigham Young. Comedy ensues. That was formed in 1849. Oops. in England. By a breakaway from the Wesleyan Methodists. And so, yep, we just got another error, because the Wesleyan Methodists were in the 1700s when they were formed in England and then came over to America. And so no, Brigham Young is not a Reformed Methodist. He's a Methodist. Just like Emma was a Methodist. Just like the Methodist preacher that Joseph Smith talks about in his visionary accounts. Dear God. And so, upon joining the Methodists, not the Reformed Methodists, which they did put that. They said upon joining the Methodists rather than upon joining the Reformed Methodist Church. It's just, oh my God. And so they, again, don't blue light it so that it would go to the Reformed Methodist link. See the errors that they're compiling here. Dear God, you cannot trust these authors now. These authors are lying to you, and their information is being used as primary source documentation when they're lies. This is just horrifying. Wikipedia should step in and stop this, and they won't. Upon joining, he insisted on being baptized by immersion. Did he? Did he? Rather than by their normal practice of sprinkling. This is where you call BS. We're already catching several lies going on here. So this raises red flags. You need to go back to that time period to get other confirmations or others that indicate that this is not the practice. You can't join a religion and say, well, I don't want to follow your religion. I want to do it my way. No. That's why Christianity has all of the different break-offs. It's because each and every single one say the others are all wrong, we're the one true branch off, and we're the true successors. Exactly what is being done by Brigham Young. And so these all are what's called red flags that get raised up high. You're already catching the information as being deceptively lying, and now you're being told that he's able to violate these religions and become a member of them. And so no, but in the lies you can identify the truth of what's going on. So we won't touch on that unless it comes up again. In 1828, the family moved briefly to Oswego, New York, on the shore of Lake Ontario. And in 1828 to Mendon, New York. And so I'm going, oh yeah, Mendon. There's a Mendon, Utah. So did Brigham Young settle it? Does he have one of his mansions there for several of his wives? Spread out his wives so that when he's burned the bridge at one household, he goes to the next. Nope. And so, again, doing the research, Mendon, Utah, Cache County, Utah, it's up there at the top. And so it was settled in 1859 by James G. Willie of the infamous Willie Handcart Company. And so, yeah, we all know who James G. Willie is, but I thought it was hilarious that they put the Forster Hotel is one of the 9 sites in Mendon listed on the National Register of Historic Places. They weren't hotels. They were brothels. When you understand what else happened in 1852, you understand why there was a great need and demand for brothels. Travis, no, they had polygamy. Yeah. Yes, they did. And what happens when you run out of women? There are men who get none, and thus the need for brothels. Oh my God. It's just unbelievable. They cannot tell us the truth. The point of the mountain? Hotel. No, it was Orrin Porter Rockwell's brothel. Regent Street. Hotel. No! Brothel. Dear God. But this is what the church leaders of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints have done to damage Mormons by revising history. Because they kept talking about you need to be faith promoting. Don't talk about anything that instills doubt in anybody. You need to be faith promoting all the way through. And so you end up having to deny science, denying facts, denying truth, denying the evidence, leaving it out, rewriting history, rewriting scriptures, reinterpreting things, reinterpreting the scriptures to fit your faith promotion narrative. That's what you're seeing here on the internet. And so, yeah, the Forster Hotel, now they're saying it was built in 1870 and expanded in 1913. 1913 would have been after polygamy got shut down, and thus the brothels were required to cease at that moment, at that time as well. So that expansion was a legitimate turning it into an actual hotel. Hilarious. Dear God, guys. That's why the church tells you not to watch pornographic, suggestive movies and TV shows, because that way you don't watch Deadwood. It'll teach you all about a brothel. Or the best little whorehouse in Texas, if you want to be more faith promoting, with a PG rating. Isn't it? Best little whorehouse in Texas rating. It's rated R. Uh-oh. You haven't seen it. I haven't seen it, obviously. Oh well. Burt Reynolds and Dolly Parton. Bad example, I guess. What other ones are PG rated for Mormons to know about brothels? None? Oh well. continuing on. Let's see. He had 2 brothers and a sister had already moved to Menden, following him after 1828. In Menden, Young first became acquainted with Heber C. Kimball, an early member of the LDS Church. I keep changing the name throughout this document. Make up your mind. It wasn't the LDS Church until 1834. And here they're saying it was the name of the church in 1828. So you don't put that in there. You've already got the link to Heber C. Kimball. Let people click on him to learn when he joined the church and got cyber terrorized again. I knew the risk when I went in, but Mormons are cowards. Mormons are cowards. They have to hide, just like the Mormons who posed as FLDS members to threaten me. Yep, that's Mormons for you, and they got it from Brigham Young. That's where all this comes from. Mormons are incapable of being good persons. And so, especially after I have now come out and revealed who my identity is, to force or to compel Mormons to believe now, because they could not do their research on their own to figure things out. Oh, in the learning of the Jews? Christian, Jesus. That's faith promoting. Not for the Jews. Dear God, Christians are the enemy to the Jews. Anything and every one that branches from it, like Islam. Okay. So, I think now, let's see. Sometime in 1830, Brigham Young was introduced to the Book of Mormon by way of a copy that his brother Phineas Howe had obtained from Samuel H. Smith. Young did not immediately accept the divine claims of the Book of Mormon. Emotional adjectives are a manipulation in wording. It is not evidence. That is psychological fraud being snuck in here. And so, in other words, Brigham Young read the Book of Mormon and had no interest in it. So here we go into 1831. 5 missionaries of now the Latter-day Saint movement, Eleazar Miller, Eliel Strong, Alpheus Gifford, Enos Curtis, and Daniel Bowen came from the branch of the church at Columbia, Pennsylvania. So you click on the blue to see where Columbia, Pennsylvania is. And it's quite a distance. It's below Bainbridge, New York, because you're checking your... but way down at the south end of Pennsylvania. And so it's not north of Pittsburgh. It's not directly underneath where there used to be a Harmony, Pennsylvania, but never since Joseph Smith Sr. moved to Palmyra. Give giving you clues for tangent information that I already did the research on. Because we're trying to focus on Brigham. And all this before we even get to finding out that, nope, his wife was not baptized with him because of the consumption. And so Mendon is even further away from Columbia, Pennsylvania. But again, they're missionaries. They were living in Columbia, but from there, these 5 men were sent on their missions and had again made contact with Brigham Young to preach in Mendon, which is interesting. A key element of the teachings of this group, in Young's eyes, irrelevant. Irrelevant, not factual information, and this is where comedy ensues, was their practicing of spiritual gifts, like speaking in tongues. Don't make me look up the Methodists on this. And prophecy. Don't make me look up the Methodists on this. Because Joseph Smith tells us. Oh my God. And so again, we have more of Brigham Young lying about his Methodist religion that he was a part of. And herein lies the cover-up of what Brigham Young is really talking about that I wasn't going to get into. This is the mind of an enemy, and he's revealing it, leaking it. When you check them, when you do the checks for pattern matching and identifying of anomalies, and developing a theory, logical Socratic methodology, running a test, requiring 3 confirmations to establish fact. Brigham Young gets exposed. The Mormons, their God, are helping expose Brigham Young. If they had just stuck to the factual information and then left out the information that was not faith promoting, most people wouldn't know to check. But when you pull obvious lies, then it sends up these red flags that I told you about. There's something being covered up. There's something that they don't want you to know about Brigham Young. And this is where these Mormons are malicious in and of themselves. They're not naive, putting information because Turner wrote about it in his book. No, this is a deliberate cover-up of who Brigham Young is and what he's all about. And I can continue on through his whole life exposing him for everything, even confessing that Joseph Smith was framed and blamed and innocent of all his and his Danites' accusations against Joseph. But when you have Mormons who are raised up in this kind of mindset, even when they leave because they had doubt promotion rather than faith promotion, you still get the attitude passed on. Don't you recognize it in me? You're offended with it because you're guilty of it. Real simple, beam and mote. It's a true, factual, eternal law by the Jewish author who wrote that. And so, yes, that's why I'm getting cyber terrorized. And so, yeah, Christians have no clue what speaking in tongues is. This is why it's hilarious. And Joseph wasn't doing anything other than the translation of the Bible, or the Bible, through Sidney Rigdon to pay him back for his services rendered. Services rendered. What services? Remember? And so this was partly experienced when Young traveled with his wife Miriam and Heber C. Kimball to visit the branch of the church in Columbia. What? There are closer branches. Why are they going all the way down to Columbia? That's about a week's drive by horse. If not more. Because it takes a couple of days to get from Palmyra all the way down to Canandaigua, or from far west Missouri to Davies County, Missouri. You need to know this. There's something going on in Columbia with those 5 men: Miller, Strong, Gifford, Curtis, Bowen. Hey, they all came with Brigham Young to this valley. Huh. And again, remember, this is 1832. 1831, sorry. Just a year after the church. And so now he's hooking up with Kimball to go down with these other 5 all the way down to Columbia. Rather than another church in the local area. And so apparently they're moving there because his wife is going. She's got consumption. She's sick. She's dying. You don't want to have a person travel when they're sick. And so, now they're claiming that Joseph Smith met with Brigham Young See, there's some information missing here. Because the way it's set up is that Brigham Young and Menden got the Book of Mormon, rejected it. Then in 1831, 5 missionaries from Columbia, Pennsylvania, a week's distance away, at least, plus or minus, now convinces him to take his sick wife to Columbia with Heber C. Kimball. And then he meets Joseph Smith in Columbia, Pennsylvania. He's in Ohio with Sidney Rigdon. That's an even further distance away. So we got some problems going on. Red flags galore, popping up everywhere. It's very clear he never met Joseph Smith. This is brand new to me. I had not done a Brigham Young video like this like I've done for other Mormons. I knew a number of information, such as the wife, but nonetheless, I didn't realize this. I had always known that he had met Joseph Smith and then got, after he was converted. But now they're saying he met Joseph Smith first, then joined. April 9th, 1832. His wife is about to die in September. Did I get that right? September or November? I took them down after I thought I was finished with them. So now I only have Brigham Young's page up, and I'm still being cyber attacked. That's what's going on here, is that the internet trolls are working on Christmas. How does that make your family feel? To send signals to my system, hacking it, to cause the freezing of the camera, which I was enjoying all this week and the weekend. No shutting down of the camera. I expected it to last all the way through to the end of the year, or into next year. Nope. They got me. Okay? And so this is now claiming Joseph Smith met Young first. Then he joined the Church of Christ. Which is correct. In April 9th, 1832. And of course, we have 2 authors that claim this. Marquette H. Michael, Alexander. Not authorized. They're not authorities. You cannot trust them. Whether you're a doubt promoter who says, well, Marquette, he's one of us. Or a faith promoter, Mormon, well, Alexander's one of us. Can't do that. Wrong. You look for his baptismal certificate. It will tell you where he was baptized, whether it was Columbia without Joseph or in Ohio with Joseph. And so now we are finding out he was baptized by Eleazar Miller. So in Ohio, or not in Ohio, in Columbia. There's a Columbia, Ohio also, which I think is where the mix-up for the deception is. just as Harmony is for Joseph Smith. Because there's a Harmony north of Pittsburgh. The Harmony in Susquehanna County, Pennsylvania, when the Pony Express came to Pittsburgh, it told them, one of you's got to change your name for the Pony Express. To only have one name of Harmony in each state. And so the Methodists established Harmony in north of Pittsburgh. Not the other one. And so the other one that was not Methodist decided to change it. And going over their historical document, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is only a side note. To try to drum up tourism. They had changed the name several times after the post office, or the Pony Express came to town. And so before Joseph Smith Sr. got to Palmyra in 1816, it had already been changed at least once. And so it's very interesting that Joseph Smith does that with his history. And so that this information is given to us by Brigham Young in his journals getting to this valley. But these Mormons and an anti-Mormon Marquette are getting their primary source information from. Dear God, so much confusion. And so, after getting baptized, Young's siblings and their spouses, notice who's missing, were baptized that year or the year afterwards. Doesn't talk about his wife. And that's where you catch it. On the list of Brigham Young's wives, or wives of Brigham Young, whatever it's called, they say that she was baptized with Brigham Young. But here on Brigham Young's, the person says, Young got baptized April 9th, 1832. Young's siblings and their spouses were baptized that year or the year afterwards. And so the person who did the list of Brigham Young's wives may have just read that and assumed that Brigham Young's wife was a part of that as well, but just didn't know when. Just assumed that it was the same time and ignored that she had consumption. In April 1832, so after April 9th, because if it's before, why didn't you put this before? A branch of the church was organized in Mendon, and thus why Young's siblings and their spouses were then baptized. Catching that? 8 of the 15 families were Young's. There, Young saw Alpheus Gifford. He's from Columbia. So, weird. So, Brigham Young in Mendon gets the Book of Mormon, rejects it. 1831, these 5 guys from Columbia come up, take Brigham Young and his wife, I'm assuming kids, And Heber C. Kimball, no wife? He's got 2 at this time. Again, this is where I'm not able to give you everything for this video. And so they take him down to Columbia, where they claim Joseph Smith was, rather than in Ohio, where he was. They joined the Church of Christ, April 9th, 1832, but then go back up to Menden with these 5 guys, and they're now establishing the church in Menden, where Alphaeus Gifford speaks in tongues. That's not Joseph speaking in tongues. Nor is it Methodist. I think we have to check this, because prophecy, I know they don't. Do Methodists speak in tongues? Now, okay, let's go to a legitimate source. Yeah, it varies according to the KCCNJ, and even with the United Methodists, with the Michigan Conference, February 23rd, 2019, they say praying in tongues and staying calm. But down here, Methodist beliefs around speaking in tongues vary a lot. Some churches fully embrace it as a spiritual gift from the Holy Spirit, and others don't. But you need to understand that speaking in tongues is babble. When the original intention of speaking in tongues is that the Jewish authors are now having to deal with multiple languages in the Middle East and in surrounding areas, with the Greeks and the Romans and the Egyptians and the Mesopotamians and the Indians that are now getting closer to be involved in all of this, and African languages, dialects. And so, yeah, that's what they're talking about, is being able to speak in other languages that are not yours. And thus the interpretation of tongues is talked about having to be with the speaking in tongues, otherwise nobody's going to understand you. And then both are edified together. And so, like in a stake conference, if you have a Spanish ward or branch, or even if you have a few Spanish members, the stake president will have purchased from the church a whole bunch of headsets, so that missionaries, oftentimes, who are in that mission area for that branch, for that foreign language, whether it's Spanish, Polynesian, Chinese, Korean, whatever is here, or anywhere in the world that's dominantly English, so that they'll speak at the recorder's desk, and those who speak the different language get the headsets so that they can hear from the missionaries who are interpreting English into whatever language is needed. That is the gift of speaking in tongues and interpreting of tongues. But Christianity, not wanting to believe in that, because it's science, created Babel language. And it's like they don't even read their Bible. Tower of Babel. That's where they got it from, with their turning it into literal history, and yet they didn't learn from their own interpretation of it. So that's why this is hilarious. That's why this has got red flags flying everywhere. This was not Joseph's. They're mocking Joseph over saying that the Book of Mormon is Hebrew and Egyptian. That's what you need to get from this. That's what the red flags are revealing, is that Brigham Young was part of a group of secret combination people who mocked Joseph Smith and his new religion. And they're now framing and blaming Joseph right from the very beginning, saying that they met with Joseph, because it gets worse. And so they go back up, and they're starting the church there, and they begin doing the missionary work with others in Menden. This is a rogue organization already, a secret combination already going on in 1832. 1831, sorry. And so the initial families that join are the Youngs. This is not Joseph's religion. Brigham Young doesn't believe in the Book of Mormon. He is completely mocking it. He wants nothing to do with it. He calls it Christian already. He's claiming to promote the church of Joseph Smith's church, but he's mocking it. He's getting it wrong. And so, Young claims he spoke in tongues. He didn't even claim translator when he stole the church after murdering Joseph Smith. And still to this day, none of his presidents and prophets that he all gave the titles to have the title of translator. He wants nothing to do with translation. He's using the Christianized Babel language. No interpretation of tongues. This is a scam fraud of Christianity to get people to go, oh, it must be true, I can't understand them. I see that in Mormonism still to this day. When somebody of a foreign language is asked to give the prayer and they say, I don't speak English. It's okay. Okay. English-speaking Mormons love it when somebody else who speaks a different language says the prayer in their language. Especially when they don't understand it. Oh my God. And so here we see their plot. See, this Columbia group is now getting to the Menden group. And so I was very curious about the Willie guy, because he was converted by Danites, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, in 1842. And so for him to name Menden, which was being created as the secret headquarters for this group that would become known as the Danites, for the Willie guy to do it and name it Mendon, after this first original secret combination of the Danites, is very curious. And of course, the brothel. I mean, a hotel. Hilarious. So, apparently they didn't move to Columbia then. And so I'm doubting that Brigham Young's wife went, especially when they don't say that Heber C. Kimball's wives went. I'm doubting that. But again, you have those Alexander and Marquette who are lying to us. And so, yeah, she never got baptized. She's sick. She's dying. And so then they start the branch, focusing on Young's family. I'm surprised they didn't mention Kimball's family. I can't remember if Kimball had other family members out there or not, or if it was just him. But you need to know some other information when you're doing this leading up to it for Mendon, is that it was Scottish rites up until 1826, 9/11 specifically, because of the historical, factual incident that took place in Canandaigua, New York, 9/11, 1826. Which is where all this comes from. The rise of the Book of Mormon. And so these Scottish rites were the enemy in America. And we see by studying church history of this secret combination who they were after they got shut down by the American hero who was the master mason of the lodge in Canandaigua, New York. They want revenge. They are the enemy. Joseph Smith Sr. That's the Book of Mormon. Okay. Let's see. And so, yeah, they then start converting others who were Scottish rites. Young's brothers were Scottish rites. So they were pissed when Joseph Smith Sr. saved America and resulted in the burning down of the Masonic temples across the colonies, especially in Western New York. He sacrificed his own Freemasonry to save America. And so the Scottish rites, who were the ones guilty, were the ones who were offended, wanted revenge. And so they found them. Brigham Young was too stupid to catch on to it with the Book of Mormon. It was Heber C. Kimball and that Columbia group. They caught on. Heber C. Kimball is known to have had both the 116 pages, aka William Morgan, as well as Mormonism Unveiled from 1834, about Solomon Spaulding's manuscript. Heber C. Kimball knows, especially when you read over his Wikipedia page, which is slightly altered from his journal entry, but nonetheless, you still get the idea of the red flags that are over every single line of lies under Masonry. Yeah, check the lodge. Check the lodge. He knows. And so, Young and Kimball spent the summer following their baptism conducting missionary work in Mendon first, and then branching out into other areas for the Scottish Rites. This is their whole plot. This is the Illuminati that infiltrated the Scottish Rites. The infiltration has a secret combination, rising up in number. That's what they're now doing. They're gathering numbers to their secret combination. Rising up in rank as the cover in Joseph's religion. And then taking over leadership positions. And then coup. And then destroying it. And then starting all over in the Salt Lake Valley with the new religious order. Pattern match. And so this is what they're now doing. They're following that pattern of practice. All of this without Joseph Smith's knowledge. Let's see. And so while they were on their missions outside of Mendon, Violet Kimball cared for Young's family. She's left to care for Young's wife, who has consumption. Brigham Young's wife is left alone with Kimball's wife. Brigham Young's original Wikipedia page, as I reported, said that Brigham Young was taking lessons from the missionaries, the infamous 5, because of the priesthood and the healing of the sick. His wife is sick. And so they're trying to be faith promoting, say that he's interested. He and his wife are attending the meetings, and they're getting blessings from the priesthood to try to heal her. And she dies. And then Brigham Young joins. That was now removed. You're welcome. Hilarious. And so, yes, they don't have a link for her, because in so doing, they're now going to be stuck with a conundrum. Do we just make up lies about her and hope nobody will notice? Or do we tell the truth and hope nobody notices? And they chose to leave it out completely. They don't want people to know. That's why I don't have a Wikipedia page. They don't want people to know about me. That's why my YouTube channel is under direct attack by the Mormon employee for YouTube, because the church doesn't want you to know who I am. Same pattern of practice. Same pattern of practice. Okay. And so, she dies of consumption in the care of Violet Kimball, while he's out raping other men's wives to get the men into the Nicolaitan band of section 117, verse 11. And that sends up red flags. that Violet was ordered to murder her. And so the following wife was of a satanic worshiping club, Mary Ann Angel, with 2 L's, I guess, in which her brother was the one who redesigned the Nauvoo temple to put the inverted pentagrams on it, and the Salt Lake and Logan, that family. Lucifer, Luciferian Nicolaitan band, Illuminati. And so Violet now becomes the shared property of Brigham and Heber, as she cares also for Brigham's children until eventually he would marry the Mary Ann Angel. They were married in 1834, but didn't obtain a marriage certificate until 31st of March, 1834. Okay? But there's more. Brigham Young, Heber, and Joseph Young now traveled to visit Joseph Smith in Kirtland, Ohio. See? Kirtland, Ohio. Not Columbus. During the visit, Brigham Young spoke in tongues to Joseph Smith, and supposedly Joseph Smith said, "That's the Adamic language." Do I need to read the Doctrine and Covenants on this? It doesn't say. It's after 1832, so it could be in 1833, to wait until after the winter. Because, after visiting Joseph Smith in Kirtland, went with his brother Joseph in the winter. Brigham went with his brother Joseph in the winter of 1832 to 1833. And so now that may not even have happened. They may not have even gone to Kirtland, Ohio. If they didn't see Joseph in Columbus, how are we then supposed to believe that they went to Kirtland? Because what they're saying here now is that Brigham and his brother Joseph, in the winter of 1832 to 1833, went again to preach. And so again, I'm not buying this. But let's do some checking on scriptures that we know are factual. Yep. Section 28 of the Doctrine and Covenants. Supposedly in Fayette. Could be questionable. Could be Manchester. Had to think of Manchester United to remember it. New York, September 1830. And so Hiram Page is pretending to have a stone in which he's getting revelations for the building of Zion and the order of the church. I'm the president. I've got the stone. One stone to rule them all. See, Hiram Page, the brother-in-law of the Whitmers, marrying a Whitmer girl, is not understanding the bigger picture soon after getting baptized. And being a witness? Really? And so, yeah, he's thinking he's going to be able to do better than Joseph. And so Joseph Smith says, "Behold, verily, verily, I say unto thee, no one shall be appointed to receive commandments and revelations in this church, excepting my servant Joseph Smith, Jr., for he receiveth them even as Moses, the Jewish Christ." Then he has to repeat it in February of 1831 to all the elders of the church at that time. "Hearken, O ye elders of my church, and give ear to the words which I am about to speak unto you." Somebody just took a snapshot of my page. Weird. There's a flash. I'm being stalked and hacked. Surprised the camera hasn't been shut down again. "Through whom I have appointed unto you to receive commandments and revelations from my hand. And this ye may know assuredly, that there is none other appointed to receive commandments and revelations. Receive not the teachings of any that come before you as revelations and commandments, so that you won't be deceived. They are not of the Jewish God." And yet, Brigham Young is claiming to have these incorrectly understood gifts of the leader of the church, and claiming that Joseph Smith approved them. This is how you expose frauds and liars and forged documents. Adamic language, my ass. After visiting, he didn't visit Joseph Smith. And so now they're claiming that Joseph Young was also a Reformed Methodist preacher. We're not even near 1849 yet. And the two made a similar preaching circuit in Eastern Canada. Because again, if you understand what happened with 9/11/1826, burning down of Masonic temples in the United States, you get a scattering effect of those responsible, plus those who stay behind to stay quiet and hope it passes by, which is the same pattern of practice as Mormons. They commit a crime, they go silent, go into hiding, and wait for it to become the new normal before they again emerge to set things up to again strike again. I've seen this too many times at the lower levels of Mormonism, not just to mention the upper levels of government and religion. This is a pattern of practice of these Danites, to lie in wait, to strike, and then go into hiding. Wait till the heat wears off. And so, yes, that's what happened. You had some of these Scottish Rites Illuminati who stay in their hometowns. There are some who flee into Canada, and then you have others who flee into the South to become the Confederates. And so Brigham, after getting the ones who stayed, then is going with his brother Joseph this time to go into Canada to get those who fled up there. Also, William Morgan was initially taken up into Canada, but he decided to not stay in Canada, but to go to the East Coast and catch a ship to escape. and there's stories that puts him in Honduras at a banana plantation. I've gone over with you. Okay. So are we up to 2 hours yet? So yes, 2 hours, and I'm obviously leaving out information that tie in. Remember? 3 confirmations from separate sources. I'm only able to do the 3+ that are immediate for this particular video for you. There are others. Okay, so they describe the Book of Mormon as the stick of Joseph. Bombshell. I hope I have that clip of Nelson, or I'll have to make it. Nelson, clip, Book of Mormon, stick of Joseph. Second Nephi chapter 3. The Book of Mormon, who they claim is the stick of Joseph, says that the stick of Joseph still needs to be made. Which means it's not the Book of Mormon. Ezekiel 37 was never completed. That's why Joseph Smith was retranslating the Bible over and over again. He's trying to do the stick of Joseph. He never finished it. The Joseph Smith translation of the Bible was not a translation. It was a revision to have payment rendered for services of Sidney Rigdon. Book of Mormon. And so, yeah, he doesn't give a damn about translation. And yet, he totally screws things up about this. Speaking in tongues without an interpreter, claiming Joseph Smith approved. And now, before they even get the papyri, which Joseph Smith then called the Joseph Smith papyri. Did you not catch that? Joseph Smith intended to fulfill Ezekiel 37 with the Joseph Smith papyri, the Joseph papyri. Thus, the other one is called the Abraham papyri. He never got to it. He never finished. He never did it. It's not done yet. Ezekiel 37 had not been done. But guess who did do it? Nobody believes. Academia, I show you how it's done. I did the video clip with the picture of Luxor, the temple out there, to go over with you. It's Bethlehem. It's where the Bible got it from. That's where the Jews got it from. The Bethlehem that we have today is because of Constantine. Dear God. Okay. And so that's why Luke says that both Nazareth and Bethlehem are the same. And then Christian scholars ignore that because Constantine designated them as 2 separate cities. For the history. Dear God. Okay. Young continues to preach in Canada, raping women, converting the men to join the secret combination, passing around the wives. Young and his 2 daughters moved to Kirtland along with the Kimball family late that summer. That's what we got going on here. So in the summer of 1830, after July, or no, they come to Kirtland in July 1830 with converts and Young and 2 daughters to Kirtland with the Kimball family. That's when they finally bump into Joseph Smith. And so as far as Joseph knows, they can report that they've been involved in missionary work and bringing converts into the church, so that in February 1834, he marries Mary Ann Angel with that certificate in March, and then in May, Young becomes a member of Zion's Camp and returns to Kirtland with members of the camp in August. After his return to Kirtland, Young did carpentry, painting, glazing work to earn money. Also worked on the Kirtland Temple. Yeah, well, that everybody has to make a living, but still, he becomes. They don't say it. Yeah. But this is when 1834 is when Sidney Rigdon raises his hand in the meeting and says, "I propose a name change to the Church of the Latter-day Saints." And it was unanimously approved. And so Brigham Young knows this because at the conference, February 14th, 1835, which is section 107 in our Doctrine and Covenants, the religious quorum of the 12 traveling apostles with their 70 were organized. And they are licensed with the Church of the Latter-day Saints. Joseph Smith Papers has all of their licenses. And so, yeah, this is how we expose Brigham Young here. He comes in the summer of 1833 to Kirtland, and he lays low. He gets a job working. He's no longer doing missionary service. Notice that? And he's now working on the temple. He's laying low. He's done the infiltration. He's got other missionaries out there now. And now he comes to Kirtland for plausible deniability. And then, because of the work he's done, he is put into the quorum of the 12 apostles, traveling 12. The quorum of 12 sitting administrative apostles, also called the High Council, is the main administrative branch. And they too have 70s assisting them. It's in the Joseph Smith Papers. I got the picture. You can get the picture too. It's all available. I haven't checked. Let's see if it's still the same situation. 1830, Book of Mormon. It's back. You're welcome. See, they stalk me. You're witnessing this. And this stalking, they pay attention to what I say and expose of this church, so that they not only attack me, but they also revise what they think needs to be revised to cover up this whole scam. hilarious. Let's continue on. Hilarity ensues. On May 4th, 1835, Young and other apostles went on a mission to the East Coast, specifically in Pennsylvania and New York. That doesn't sound like the East Coast. Isn't that the West Coast of the United States at that point? His call was to preach to the remnants of Joseph. And again, he's referring to indigenous Lamanites. Here we have a new author, Arrington, from 1985, but Turner again. They are not primary sources. And so I wonder if this is the talk that the Danites claim was when Joseph Smith said, you need to practice polygamy with the Lamanites. They misread that, or miswrote it, one of the five. I'd have to do an updated video on that. And so, then in August 1835, Young and the rest of the Quorum of the 12 issued a testimony in support of the divine origin of the Doctrine and Covenants. Okay, yeah, I recall that in our Doctrine and Covenants. I think we still have it, don't we? Explanatory introduction, testimony of the 12 apostles and truth of the Doctrine and Covenants. Yep. It's just 3 verses. And so you have Thomas B. Marsh, David W. Patton, Brigham Young, Heber C. Kimball, Orson Hyde, William E. McClellan, Parley P. Pratt, Luke S. Johnson, William Smith, Orson Pratt, John F. Boynton, Lyman E. Johnson. He oversaw the finishing of the Kirtland Temple and spoke in tongues at its dedication in 1836. No, he didn't. If you don't understand what I told you about this, that it has nothing to do with Babel speech, you're never going to get it. You're going to be an enemy. This is an exposure of who Brigham Young really is. He's lying. He did not speak in tongues at the dedication of the Kirtland Temple. It's all a fraud that they're talking about here. And if they remove it from this after I do this video, awesome. Did it again. Oops. Should that be the theme song in the description below? Brittany. Oops, I did it again. We're doing it. It does have relevance to both Brigham doing it to you and me doing it to Brigham. Did it again. So how did you spend your Christmas? Pre-Hanukkah. Shortly afterwards, Young went on another mission with his brother Joseph to New York and New England. On this mission, he visited, isn't New York New England? Okay, a region in the northeastern United States that includes Connecticut, Maine, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Rhode Island. No, it does not include New York. Okay. Rhode Island. Yeah, so it's the northern version of them. Okay. On his mission, he visited the family of his aunt, Rhoda Howe Richards. Dum 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 dum. And thus introducing Willard Richards. The one and infamous only. And then he went on to the eastern states, returned to Kirtland, where he remained until dissenters, unhappy with the failure of the Kirtland Safety Society. Here we go. Heber C. Kimball and Brigham Young distanced themselves from those they converted. The Kirtland Safety Society was the bank of Joseph Smith, in which the Danites took out loans along with good Mormons. The good Mormons paid back their loans when they could. The Danites lived high on the hog, refused to pay it back. Thus, the Kirtland Safety Society failed, and thus caused the problems, and they had to leave in December of 1837. And so Brigham Young fled to Dublin, Indiana, before moving to far west Missouri, where Joseph went. You see what's going on? Because I do. Alrighty, so we'll stop it there. That leads you right in to 1838 and the Danite War against America, with election fraud, tanking of the economy, decertification of the election, burning down of buildings, raping of women, theft of property with the false bishop in Adam on Diamond, section 117, verse 11. Nicolaitan band, blaming and framing Joseph so that he gets locked up, and then Brigham steps in to become president until Joseph Smith gets out, and so Brigham Young can just claim, oh, I'm just president of the 12. That's why they call me President Joseph. And then they went and plotted to have him murdered. As the Abraham Lincoln version was bypassed thanks to the Nauvoo Council without Joseph's consent, destroying the Nauvoo expositor, getting Joseph arrested as a terrorist this time. And so that's why that pursuit of Joseph as president was then bypassed to get Willard Richards and John Taylor in that jail to make sure Joseph never sees the light of day ever again. And then Brigham Young insurrected the church, claimed that he's the second president of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, flees the country, claims this is his kingdom, and the United States took it away from him. War ensues back and forth. Brigham Young calls other converts to come to Zion to defend against America. He's eventually shut down in 1887, exposing 1852. When he said, Heavenly Father is Adam, and polygamy must be practiced by all, not just my secret combination Danites. And thus the need for brothels. So like I said, there's lots of information to fill in the gaps. That's the outline. And Mormons lie and deny and do exactly what the Danites did in 1838 to the other Mormons. Threaten them to deny the truth and accept the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints as true, as Christian. Methodists aren't Christian. Unbelievable. I don't think I went over that, did I? Yeah, here it is in the first part of the Latter-day Saint conversion. By the time Young moved to Mendon in 1828, he had effectively left the Reformed Methodist Church 21 years before it was formed, and became a Christian seeker. Unconvinced that he had found a church possessing the true authority of Jesus Christ. Do you not see this? He's speaking in tongues. He's getting baptized by immersion rather than sprinkling. And he denounces them as Christian. They're not Christian. Just hilarious.